All right, so we're going to continue reading the rest of the Tablet of the Universe. Tablet of the Universe. For this reason, thou must weigh all matters in the balance of this cause with the capital C, and heed not the idle talk of the blind in heart and those who are captives of delusions and vain imaginations. Okay, so we basically were given a yardstick or a standard when a manifestation brings revelation to us, that we weigh everything else against that. So that's the standard. That's the golden standard. Such talk is, to those possessed of insight, nothing more than fanciful stories and empty tales. Nay, rather, thou shouldst investigate all things in a methodical and scientific way, and by clear proofs, perspicuous signs, and incontrovertible evidences, seek to discover the undisclosed verities and the hidden mysteries which are concealed in the inmost heart of the realities of the universe. That is fantastic. Investigate all things. Here we go. Now, so he's talking about realities of the universe. Realities based on what we just read. We're talking about the underlying realities, the realities that are behind the expressions which appear in the phenomenal world. So he says, investigate using scientific way. To those to whom God hath granted insight, whose inner natures are illumined, whose outer natures are refined, whose hearts are pure and whose minds are open and receptive, it is not acceptable in this great and majestic cycle to rely unquestioningly on the views of others in matters such as these. Oh my God, you can't say any better than that. It is in this majestic, it's not acceptable in this majestic cycle to rely unquestioningly on the views of others in matters such as these. So it's basically referring and talking about superstitions and belief systems which are erroneous. Conventional wisdoms and precepts based upon illusion and fancy, and to which no knowledgeable, experienced, or intelligent person can reconcile himself, are today, in the sight of the truly learned, nothing more than deranged dreams. Okay. Praise be to him who hath illumined men's minds with the light of truth shining forth from the dawning place of revelation. Glorified be the Lord of majesty for breaking down the barriers, tearing asunder the veils, dispelling the darkness, bursting the chains of illusion, cleaving the fetters of imagination, freeing men's minds from the tyranny of conjecture, and liberating the birds of thought in the apogee of human hearts, so that they may soar with the wings of delight in the worlds of existence, and with penetrating insight rend the veils woven by the spiders of fancy in these lofty chambers and high pavilions. Mhm. So, got to use our mind, man. Definitely. Question and think. Know then, with regard to the mathematical sciences, that it was only in this distinguished age, this great century, it's talking about 20th century, that their scope was widened. In regards to what? Mathematical sciences in 20th century, their scope was widened, their unresolved difficulties solved, their rules systematized, and their diversity realized. The discoveries made by earlier philosophers and the views they held were not established upon a firm basis or a sound foundation, for they wished to confine the worlds of God within the smallest compass and narrowest limit, and were quite unable to conceive what lay beyond, even claiming that there was neither void nor matter, but merely nothingness. This view is at variance and contrary to all the divine truth and heavenly secrets. Indeed, if thou dost compare the ideal world to the human world and apply spiritual principles to physical matters, thou wilt discover that this view is flimsier than a spider's web, because just as the luminous spiritual worlds are sanctified above computation or limitation, so too are the physical worlds in this vast immensity of space. This is a secret of which God hath prized his servants through his grace and mercy in order to demonstrate the idleness of the fancies of those who disbelieve in God, and to expose the baselessness of the arguments of those who are wandering blindly in their heedlessness, that the edifice they have built out of their vain imaginings may crumble, and their profitless pursuits be discredited and fall into disrepute. So we're not talking about parallel universe, seemingly. We're talking about this very universe, which is infinite, and there are infinite number of worlds. And worlds, we're talking about probably star systems, galaxies, and other formations. They're called worlds. There are infinite number of those in this infinite universe, physical universe. For their eyes have been blinded from beholding the worlds of God, and their minds have fallen short of comprehending the mysteries of the kingdom, with the capital K, in this resplendent vision, with the capital V. So here, the kingdom here, I think he's referring to spiritual realm. Or it could be talking about the worlds of the manifestation, and since the vision is with a capital V, also referring to the vision that is a product of that revelation, or or how do you say, related to that revelation. They believed that these worlds were contained in this small circuit, which in relation to the worlds of God is of no more account than the black in the eye of an ant in an infinity of space. Even as he said, and he speaketh the truth, none knoweth the hosts of thy Lord save him. With regard to that which had been mentioned concerning the seven spheres and the seven heavens referred to in the books revealed by the dawning places of light and repositories of secrets in previous ages, such references were dictated by the conventional wisdom prevailing in those times. For every cycle hath its own characteristics, which are determined by the capacities of the people and the readiness to accept fresh revelations of the truth from behind the veil. All things are ordained by God according to a given measure. When the prophets spoke of the celestial spheres, what they intended was no more than the orbits of the planets falling within that greater world that embraces the sun and its attendant planetary system. So when they were talking about what? Celestial spheres in previous religions, in old religions, referring to the solar system, for the planets circling this sun are in 7 degrees in respect to mass, volume, visibility, and brilliancy. The orbit of the first of these is one of the spheres of this solar world, and one of the heavens of finite extent that falls within the circumference of this all-encompassing circle. I lost it. Let me see, just a second. You lost me. The orbit of the first of these is one of the spheres of this solar world, and one of the heavens of finite extent that falls within the circumference of this all-embracing circle. The same pattern is true for all the brilliant stars shining in the face of the heavens. There's something he's saying I don't understand exactly. Every one of which is the sun with its own solar world containing planets and satellites. So we're talking about solar systems. The orbits, the first of these is one of the spheres of this solar world, and one of the heavens of finite extent that falls within the circumference of this all-embracing circle. What embracing circle? There must be an embracing circle, contains all of it. Every one of which is a sun with its own solar world containing planets and satellites. The same pattern is true for all the brilliant stars shining. Okay, so there is a central orb that it's a sphere, contains all. So if that's true, our universe is not flat, it's a spherical. And there is a central luminosity, or let's say celestial body, luminous celestial body, that contains, that is circle, it's a sphere, its field contains everything in the universe. Within this spherical field, there are infinite number of, obviously, smaller luminaries, smaller suns with their own world, containing planets and satellites. When thou gazest at the planets with the naked eye, without the interposition of magnifying mirrors, they, talk about telescope, they will appear to be 7 degrees. The orbit or circuit of each of these degrees is an upraised heaven, and an encircling sphere in the world of existence. So that means all of these worlds are going around the central point. I don't know. This is very difficult. I have to really, at this point in time, I'm unable to follow him. Know then that as hath been clearly handed down in the accounts of old. So what we just read, this previous paragraph, this was according to the old religions, I guess. Know then that, as has been clearly handed down in the accounts of old, these great orbits and circuits fall within subtle, fluid, clear, liquid, undulating, and vibrating bodies, and that the heavens are a restrained wave, because a void is impossible and inconceivable. Talking about the ether. So, these great orbits and circuits fall within subtle, fluid, clear, liquid, undulating, vibrating bodies. And that the heavens are a restrained wave, because a void is impossible and inconceivable. So talk about these. That means the primary, or the space itself is made of ether, and these circuits are made out in this ether. All that may be said is that the celestial bodies and the material bodies of the ethereal regions differ in respect of some of the substances and elements from which they are constituted. Wow. So there are spiritual planets? Oh my, what's going on here? All that may be said is that the celestial bodies, what celestial bodies? And the material bodies, celestial bodies. Are we talking about suns here? And then material bodies, talk about planets? I don't think so. All that may be said is that the celestial bodies and the material bodies of the ethereal region differ in respect of some of the substances and elements from which they are constituted. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about he's differentiating between the stars and planets. Stars are called celestial bodies, and then material bodies of the ethereal region. So all that may be said of some of this, all that may be said is that the celestial bodies and the material bodies of the ethereal region differ in respect of some of the substances and elements from which they are constituted. the quantities and proportion of these that go into their composition. So it seems like that means the substances are the same, but the proportions, quantities, composition of these elements are different. The peculiar characteristics causing the difference in the outward effects of these bodies and the properties that emanate from them in rich abundance. So he's talking about he's talking about stars, differentiating them from the planets. That's how much I can get out of that now. The celestial bodies that surround the material bodies also differ one from another in respect of subtlety, fluidity, and weight. It cannot be otherwise. It cannot be otherwise, for a void is impossible. So there is no void, there is no nothingness anywhere. Everything is filled with this. Space is filled with itself, which is not nothing. The celestial bodies that surround the material bodies. So wait a second. No, he's talking about maybe, when we call this astral body, which surrounds our physical body, same thing. Okay, so if you read that again, know then that as hath been clearly handed down in the account of old, these great orbits and circuits fall within subtle, fluid, clear, liquid, undulating and vibrating bodies, and that the heaven are a restrained wave because a void is impossible and inconceivable. All that may be said is that the celestial bodies, so celestial bodies, that's the ether, let's say, and the material bodies of the ethereal regions differ in respect of some of the substances and elements from which they are constituted. The quantities and proportion of these that go into their composition, the peculiar characteristics causing the difference in the outward effects of these bodies. And the properties that emanate from them in rich abundance. So they all have certain characteristics because of their astral bodies that they have. The astral bodies are not the same. So there are different astral bodies. The celestial bodies that surround the material bodies also differ one from another. There you go. In respect of subtlety, fluidity, and weight. It cannot be otherwise, for a void is impossible. So there is no nothing. Nothing cannot be. There is something, but it's so subtle, so refined, that resembles nothing, but there is always something. Now, the existence of a container implies the existence of something contained. Correct. What is contained can hardly be other than a body, material. But the bodies of the celestial spheres are in the utmost degree of subtlety. So there are celestial spheres. These are spheres made of ether, but they're so subtle, they're refined. Lightness and fluidity, as bodies may be of diverse kinds, solid like rocks, malleable like metals and minerals, fluid like water and air. Wow. So all of these degrees of material, they're just different degrees of material, but they're still material. And then these orbits that we look at, these are actual spheres. They have, the sphere has a volume. It's not that so basically, when a planet orbits in a star, what it's doing is traveling on the circumference of that sphere, which that sphere belonging to the central sun, to the star. Lighter still, they may be of a kind that ascends heavenwards, such as that which is used in dirigibles, and lighter than all of these are fire. Oh, wow. Electricity and lightning. So we're still talking about material here. All of these are bodies in reality. They're material, but some of them are weightless. In such manner, thy Lord hath created in these vast heavens manifold bodies without limit or number, which the minds of men can neither compute nor encompass. Souls are bewildered when they attempt to understand them, and confounded by a mere glimpse of them. Now, what is dirigible? Dirigible, what's that mean? What is this? Hmm? Dirigible is now connected with the head of the mooring mast by a long length of a steel wire rope, flying the Atlantic in 16. What the hell? Dirigible definition: capable of being steered. Recent examples on the web. Adjective. What? World's largest dirigible airship went up in towering flames in New Jersey. What is that? Capable of being dirigible. Dirigible airship. Oh, is he talking about like the inert gases, which are weightless or lighter than air, so they ascend? They're weightless. So like helium, hydrogen, balloon. Learn more about the what the hell? What? I don't know what the heck is going on. Okay, let's continue. As for those who claim that the celestial spheres are massive, solid, and contiguous with each other. What's contiguous? Contiguous. Contiguous. Contiguous means being in actual contact, touching along a boundary at a point. Okay, so let's see now. As for those who claim that the celestial spheres, that means the fields, the spherical fields around the celestial bodies are massive, solid, and contiguous with each other. That they are glassy, transparent, and penetrable to the light of other bodies, capable of neither being cleft asunder nor welded back together, forever impermeable and imperishable. These thoughts are mere suppositions and surmises made by people who have not understood the meaning of the brilliant verse that clearly states, all swim in a celestial sphere. That's also from Quran. The import of this verse is clear inasmuch as the act of swimming cannot be conceived of except in yielding, fluid, liquid bodies. So these bodies are not solid. Oh my God. Cannot be conceived of except in yielding, fluid, liquid bodies, and is quite impossible in solid, resistant bodies. Look, then, with discerning vision into this clear, conclusive, and manifest proof. Wow, he's getting to some seriously difficult stuff. Can't keep up. Seriously, I can't keep up. I'm going to stop here.